we covered this on our show.
Yeah.
And it's of course I did because I thought of you in sports, but also because we see so eye to eye on this like old school liberal versus woke insanity.
Yeah.
And there's this article in the Atlantic, which is, look, the Atlantic has broken a lot of great stories and they have great writers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to hit on the Atlantic. I mean, I think I made a snarky joke about them at the time, but I couldn't believe that they printed a article called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense." Let me say, first of all, yes, it does.
Yes, it does. It sure as hell does.
And I thought, no, this is a nightclub. This is Club Random. We don't do anything. But I just wanted to get these quotes right. So I brought this in. This is the people actually printed this in this Serious magazine. First, it talks about this woman who was trying to join a boys' sport. The panel then set out to determine whether Mendelzes was essentially strong, development, athletic enough to play a contact sport with boys, even though those boys needed to prove no such thing. Yes, they did when they tried out for the team.
That's right. That's why I didn't make my high school basketball team.
Right. And you were 6'8" at the time.
At the time, yes.
It's a tragic thing that's happened to you.
Yeah.
Bob Costas, diminutive, vituperative, iconic. Gen Zers are more likely than members of previous generations to reject a strict gender binary altogether. True that.
Yep.
That was me talking. True that. Maintaining this binary in youth sports reinforces the idea that boys are inherently bigger, faster, and stronger.
Yeah, that's just a notion. A crazy notion somebody had.
In a competitive setting, a notion that's been challenged by scientists for years. Where? Where are these scientists?
Professor Pepperwinkle from Superman?
Where are the scientists? I mean, again, Atlantic, everybody, Bob and I were just talking about the fact that you can have a bad day. Sometimes you just don't have your fastball. I'm working on the knuckle curve. But seriously, you printed this on paper, like you typeset this and you looked at it, I mean, and you weren't high. May I continue?
Yeah.
Decades of research have shown that sex is more complex than we may think. Okay, again, starting off with a banality no one to disagree with. And though sex differences in sport show advantages for men, researchers still don't know how much of this is attributable to biological difference versus the lack of support provided to women athletes to reach their highest potential.
Right.
I bring this paragraph up because in 2002, you were doing your show on HBO, the first version of it.
Yep.
I did a piece for it on Title IX.
Yes, you did.
Title IX. Would you like to explain Title IX, Bob Costas?
Well, Title IX, which was a progressive piece of legislation in the best sense of the word.
Again, progressive.
In the Nixon administration,
the old bad progressives
basically created equality in scholastic sports. That funds and resources would go toward girls and women's sports in equal measure to men.
It was 1971. Nixon was president.
Yep.
And it basically said you have to, now there was a downside to it, which is part of my piece I did on your show in 2002, by saying that you have to devote equal funding to women's sports as well as men's. There's a lot of women who didn't want to wake up at 5 a.m. to row in a canoe. So they would just get rid of the men's team because you had to have equal.
That was a consequence.
It was sort of a precursor of what equity is. It's not the same thing as equality. Equity is this, like, okay, well, we have to be equal, so we get rid of...
Here's what we have. In one generation, I wasn't the world's greatest athlete, a little better than some people might assume. I wasn't a bad stickball player or shooting baskets in the backyard. Yeah, but clearly I wasn't going to get a college scholarship. But the point is that I played lots of organized sports. My sister, 2 years younger than me, played none. I have a son and a daughter. And my daughter played pretty much the same number of organized sports within a school setting as my son did. That's in one generation. That's real progress. That's a great thing. No one can say it isn't a great thing.
It's just, I mean, women just don't want to do the exact same things as men. The fact that we have to explain
this. As a group.
Just the fact that we have to explain this to children who have taken over the internet is ridiculous.
Well, let's take the Atlantic's position, or at least that writer in the Atlantic's position, to its logical conclusion. Then it should be this. Okay. Hey, why don't we just have one basketball team at Ohio State or at UCLA, and everybody goes out for the team?
Can you imagine what would happen if the worst NBA team, and again, if you think this is some sort of put down of women, it's a put down of God or whoever created this species. You know, and women obviously have other attributes that we don't have. Hopefully it evens out. This is just one where it's undeniable we're different. We are stronger and bigger and taller. And if LeBron James' team, which is not even in the playoffs yet, played against the best team in the WNBA, it would be stop the fight.
Yes.
I mean, what would the score be?
Yes, this is just reality.
It's just reality.
Maybe the better example to give is an individual sport, and even Serena Williams, I believe, has acknowledged this.
She has. Serena Williams,
the greatest female tennis player, arguably, in history, would not be among the 50 best men among her contemporaries. Maybe that's generous.
McEnroe said the best 700.
And, you know, McEnroe sometimes makes provocative statements, but we like John.
Hey, we own a pot store together.
No. Last time I saw him was backstage at your show at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden. So
the Woods. Woody Harrelson's going to love me for this, but yes, I do have a pot store, and I mean, we share it. It's mostly his. I'm trying to get more, but the Woods.
You know, look, distinctions matter. So here's an issue related to that. The women's soccer team, the U.S. women's soccer team, has for a long time lobbied for equal resources and equal pay. And the reflexive argument coming from the right or anti-wokesters is to say, wait a minute, they're not as good as the men. And the men's World Cup generates X times more money than the Women's World Cup. Yes, this would be a good argument in Brazil. This would be a good, really, but it's not a good argument here. Because it's a pretty simple Google search if you haven't been paying attention. The U.S. men can't even get into the quarterfinals. The women win the World Cup and they win the Olympic gold medal on a regular basis. Even if you think Megan Rapinoe is at times a little obnoxious, that has nothing to do with it. In this particular context, they deserve to be compensated.
Who's Megan Rapinoe?
Megan Rapinoe is the most prominent player on the women's team. Purple hair. You know, very outspoken.
I knew that, Bob. I was testing you.
Yeah.
Again, this is a quote from someone, but obviously someone they find credible. The fact that you would write this down on a piece of paper just astounds me. The strict segregation gives the impression. These are ideas, impressions. How about this one? The researchers hypothesized that the gap they did find between girls and boys was likely due to socialization.
Yeah.
Socialization. That's why the NBA and the WNBA are so different. It's what happened in high school.
We're talking about also at the elite level. Allison Felix, fastest woman in the world, runs faster than 99.999% of all men, but not as fast as Usain Bolt.
Not as fast as high school runners who are men.
Well, she's pretty, not some of them. Some of them.
All right. But maybe that's not right, but I've heard people in the know, maybe they don't know, tell me that that's the case, that the top male high school runners, and I don't know why they wouldn't, because you're probably the best you are when you're in high school. I mean, you're 18.
Yeah, you get additional training,
it is, the point remains that women and men are different biologically as far as strength and stuff that matters in sports. And the fact that we are debating
if you obliterated that, then all the really admirable female athletes would be off the stage. But Allison Felix would not have a gold medal. She wouldn't even be in the field.
But how can we solve our problems when we're stuck debating things that shouldn't be debatable to begin with?
Right.
You can't, it's like being stuck in that place in a relationship where we can't get back to the bliss because we're still arguing about what happened in the diner.
But here, look, if I have to re-stipulate this, then I will. I am really glad that my daughter got to play. It was she had a great time.
Right.
It's a socialization thing. It was fun. And there are levels of skill. She got coaching. She got better at it. This is a good experience. And I'm glad that there's a place at the Olympic level and at the professional level for people to pursue it. I applaud it. I admire it. And I watch a fair amount of it. But if we're going to go where this wants us to go, then women's sports is dead because they'll be playing against boys and men.
Well, it's the opposite of Title IX, which was the
reason
I brought. Because and then that it just epitomizes that here I am in 2002 doing this thing on your show about Title IX, which at the time all liberals thought was the greatest thing in the world.
And I still think it's great.
Hey, thanks for watching the clip. Hit the subscribe button now so you never miss out on our Club Random content that's posted daily.